has summoned Iran's ambassador to Ankara after a ballistic missile fired from Iran was detected heading toward Turkish airspace. According to a Turkish diplomatic source, the envoy was called to the foreign ministry to formally convey Ankara's protest and express serious concerns over the incident. Turkey's Defense Ministry said the missile was launched from Iran and traveled across Syrian and Iraqi airspace before heading toward Turkey. The ministry stated that the projectile was destroyed by NATO air and missile defense systems in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Officials confirmed there were no casualties and no reported damage. However, the incident has heightened tensions between Ankara and Tehran at a time of already fragile regional security. The Turkish government has not provided further operational details about the interception, but the summoning of Iran's ambassador signals a strong diplomatic response. Ankara has made clear it views the trajectory of the missile as a serious matter, particularly given that it was moving toward Turkish airspace before being neutralized. The development adds another layer of strain across the region as cross-border missile activity continues to raise concerns about escalation. For now, Turkish officials say the threat was successfully eliminated. A ballistic missile reportedly fired from Iran crossed Iraqi and Syrian airspace before being destroyed by NATO air and missile defense systems over the eastern Mediterranean Sea on Wednesday. The target, Turkish officials confirmed, was Turkish airspace. Turkey's Defense Ministry said there were no casualties and no damage, but the statement it issued carried a sharp edge. Ankara said it reserves the right to respond to any hostile actions against it, and warned all parties to refrain from steps that could escalate the conflict further. The incident marks a significant and dangerous expansion of the Iran war. Since the start of the conflict, Tehran has been firing drones and missiles at Israel, Iraq, Jordan, and Gulf states hosting American bases. No missile projectile was aimed at Turkey until Wednesday. Turkey is not a peripheral player in this crisis. A majority Sunni Muslim nation and NATO member, it shares a 500-kilometer border with Iran. Turkey had spent weeks before the conflict urging Washington and Tehran to reach a negotiated settlement, warning that the region could not absorb further destabilization. As recently as Tuesday, Turkey's foreign minister urged the United States to limit its attacks to degrading Iran's military capabilities, explicitly warning that pushing for regime change carried serious regional risks. Tehran has not commented on the missile's intended target or trajectory. Whether the launch was deliberate or a warning to Ankara against allowing NATO assets to be used against Iran remains unclear. NATO's interception of the missile, however, is unambiguous. An alliance member was threatened, and the alliance, as per its charter, is obliged to respond. However, NATO has been so far divided over American actions in Israel.
NATO ally Germany has refused to participate in the United States and Israel's war against Iran. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul said that Berlin does not have the corresponding military resources and the government has no intention of participating in any way. According to the German media, Wadephul made the remark after reports citing officials claimed that Berlin was seriously considering taking military action against Iran if it does not cease attacking countries in the region. On Sunday, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said that, globally, international law was being respected less and less, and there was little point in lecturing allies. He said the Iranian regime was a terrorist one, endangering its citizens and the region, and therefore Germany essentially agreed with the goals of the US action.
At this very moment, we simply do not know what kind of future structures will be established or with which specific individuals in Iran. From my perspective, the absolute most important thing is that the Iranian people now finally get the chance to decide for themselves about their own political leadership. However, we are aware of neither potential actors nor any groups that would be in a position to accomplish that. That is why I also emphasized in my statement that it is not without risk to carry out such a military operation now, even considering the division of labor between Israel and the United States of America. There will be a day after this, and that day after must be a day of peace, of freedom, with democratic elections and with good neighborly relations throughout the entire region. And that is not yet foreseeable at this present moment. We are hoping for it, but we are not certain.
Earlier, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the United Kingdom will not join in strikes on Iran, but agreed to let the US use British bases for attacks on Tehran's missiles and their launch sites.
Yesterday, I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. Over the last 2 days, Iran has launched sustained attacks across the region at countries who did not attack them. They've hit airports and hotels where British citizens are staying. This is clearly a dangerous situation. We have at least 200,000 British citizens in the region, residents, families on holiday, and those in transit. I ask all our people in the region to please register your presence and follow Foreign Office travel advice. I know this is a deeply worrying time, and we will continue to do all we can to support you. Our armed forces, who are located across the region, are also being put at risk by Iran's actions. Yesterday, Iran hit a military base in Bahrain, narrowly missing British personnel. The death of the supreme leader will not stop Iran from launching these strikes. Their approach is becoming even more reckless and more dangerous to civilians. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement, one in which Iran agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon. But Iran is striking British interests nonetheless and putting British people at huge risk, along with our allies across the region. That is the situation we face today. Our partners in the Gulf have asked us to do more to defend them, and it is my duty to protect British lives. We have British jets in the air as part of coordinated defensive operations, which have already successfully intercepted Iranian strikes. But the only way to stop the threat is to destroy the missiles at source, in their storage depots, or the launchers which are used to fire the missiles. The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose. We have taken the decision to accept this request to prevent Iran firing missiles across the region, killing innocent civilians, putting British lives at risk, and hitting countries that have not been involved. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defence of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice.
Iran and Iranian-backed militias fired missiles at Israel and Arab states, apparently hitting the U.S. Embassy compound in Kuwait, while Israel and the United States pounded targets in Iran as the war expanded on Monday. At least 555 people have been killed in Iran so far by the U.S.-Israeli campaign, the Iranian Red Crescent Society said, and more than 130 cities across the country having come under attack. 11 people have been killed in Israel, according to authorities there. U.S. President Donald Trump said an Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American.
An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons, would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America" or "Death to Israel," or both. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help.